What I'm trying to get done here is a spring cap and a spring coil, where the spring cap should animate up and the spring coil should have a keyframe on its screw value that changes from 0 to some higher value to have it actually spring up and down. Seems simple enough, but I'm having difficulty. So I've got a spring cap and a spring coil. I'm going to add a mesh here and just delete out the verts to create a parent. I'm just going to call this spring. I'm going to make the spring cap and the spring coil children of it. And then the idea that I had was that you'd create a animation on the parent object here, the spring, which would affect the spring cap and the spring coil. So in the action editor, I'm going to create a new action. The first one I'm going to create is spring still. I'm going to hit F to save this. And for the spring still, I'm going to select the spring cap object and add a location keyframe, and select the spring coil and also add a location keyframe. So the idea is for this spring coil action, I note that immediately as soon as I click the other ones, they created their own action, spring cap action, spring coil action. I'm assuming that's because I need to reselect the spring still action whenever I set these keyframes. So I'm going to go back and delete those keyframes. Click on spring cap action, delete these keyframes. Go back and I'm going to select spring cap, select spring still, and now I'm going to add a location keyframe. I'm going to do the same thing, spring coil, select the spring still action and add a location keyframe to that. It seems like that works. It's a steady animation, so there's nothing that I can really do to tell, but I believe that's fine. So I'm going to create a new animation, which is the one I'm having difficulty with, which is the spring trigger. New action, so spring trigger. So what I'd like to do here is, after example, let's just say 5 frames, I would like to have the spring cap, and I've already got the keyframe from before, the action spring cap. So spring cap, I'm going to select spring trigger with this animation, move this spring cap up, and now I'm going to keyframe it. Now similarly, I'm going to go back to the first frame. I'm going to click on the spring coil. I'm going to frame the screw value. So keyframe the screw value. Now when I go to the 5th frame, I notice that the coil has raised itself in the air. Well, I can change this coil to, let's say, 10, and it's actually quite large, maybe something like that. And I keyframe this, and I play back and forth. I see that the coil is affected by the animation keyframes I put on the cap. And the entire object ends up springing into the air. Now what I'd like to do is to have these two different actions, export this as an FBX, and then import it into Unity and access both of these animations. But because what I'm doing to the cap is affecting the coil, I'm not really sure how to proceed. Any help is greatly appreciated. Thank you.